The words hung in the cold night air like something fragile, something on the edge of breaking. Rain soaked her clothes, her hair glued to her cheeks, her small suitcase resting at her feet like the last piece of a life she no longer had. And he, Daniel, stood frozen on the doorstep, speechless, staring at the girl he once promised he'd always protect. Her name was Alina. And tonight, she looked like she had run through every storm life could throw at her. Daniel swallowed hard. He had imagined many scenarios where their paths might cross again, but not this. Not her trembling under streetlight shadows. Not her voice cracking as she said, "Please. I don't have anyone else." He stepped back silently and let her inside. The past that broke them. Just 5 years ago, they were inseparable. They had grown up on the same street, shared the same bus stop, laughed over the same stupid jokes. But after Alina's parents passed away in a car accident, everything changed. She bounced between relatives who didn't want the responsibility, while Daniel's own life got swallowed up by work and college applications. One painful misunderstanding after another, and eventually, the distance swallowed them. Daniel had always regretted it. Now she was here again, broken, tired, and desperate. The storm she carried inside. As she sat by the heater, Daniel noticed bruises along her arms, faint but unmistakable. Her voice shook when she finally spoke. "I left him," she whispered. "He wasn't who I thought he was, and tonight he threw me out." Daniel felt anger ignite inside him, hot and sharp. But he forced himself to stay calm. "You're safe here," he said quietly. For a long moment, she didn't reply, as if she wasn't sure those words were real. The days that followed. Alina refused the bedroom at first, choosing instead to sleep on the couch. She apologized for taking space, apologized for eating food, apologized for breathing. It took Daniel 3 days to realize she wasn't just scared, she was convinced she didn't deserve kindness. He cooked for her. Drove her to the clinic. Sat nearby when she finally agreed to speak with a counselor. Told her she didn't owe him anything. But the real challenge came when he tried to help her rebuild her life. Alina jumped at sudden sounds. She flinched if anyone raised their voice. She doubted herself at every step. Healing wasn't a straight line, it was a maze. And Daniel walked every turn with her. The argument that changed everything. 3 weeks later, she told him she was leaving. "I'm a burden," she said, tears pooling. "You're fixing my mess when you should be living your life." Daniel slammed his car keys onto the table. "You are not a burden. You're someone who needs help. Someone who deserves help." She shook her head. "I don't deserve anything." "Then let me believe you do," he said softly. For the first time, she looked him fully in the eyes. It was the moment she stopped running, from him, from help, from her own worth. Her road back. With time, patience, and counseling, Alina found the strength to start again. She applied for a small job at a bookstore. She started journaling, taking walks, laughing again. The girl who once arrived soaked in rain now woke up early to watch the sunrise through Daniel's window. And Daniel, he was just grateful she existed in the same room again. But he never pushed. Never asked for more than friendship. He let her choose the pace of her healing. The night everything came full circle. 3 months after she first showed up at his door, Alina stood there again, same doorstep, same porch light, but completely different. She wasn't trembling this time. She wasn't broken. She had her own small apartment lined up, savings from her job, and confidence in her voice. But she also had one more thing to say. That night, when I said I had nowhere else to go, she paused, wiping a single tear. "You didn't say anything. You just opened the door. That saved my life, Daniel." He stood there again, frozen, just like the first night, but for a different reason. Emotion rose in his throat. "I didn't know what to say back then," he whispered. "I just knew I couldn't lose you again." She stepped closer. "You didn't lose me," she said softly. "You found me." The message for every broken heart. Alina and Daniel never pretended healing was simple. It wasn't. It was painful, messy, exhausting. There were nights she cried without knowing why, and days he felt helpless watching her struggle. But with kindness, patience, and the courage to stay, they rebuilt something stronger than the life she lost. Not romance. Not obligation. Human compassion. The kind that reminds people that even at their lowest, someone can walk with them until they can stand again. In the end, the story wasn't about where she came from. It was about where she refused to stay. And the person who quietly opened the door when she had nowhere else to go. The morning sunlight filtered through Daniel's curtains, casting warm gold across the apartment floor. Alina stood by the window with a small box in her hands, the last of her belongings from Daniel's place. She looked stronger now, her shoulders no longer weighed down by invisible chains. But inside, an uneasiness churned. Today was the day she would collect the documents she left behind in her old house. The house she fled from. Daniel noticed her silent worry. "We don't have to go today," he said gently. "No," she replied firmly, "I need to do this. I can't keep living afraid of my own past." He didn't argue. He simply nodded, grabbed his keys, and told her, "I'll be right beside you." Returning to the place that broke her. As they drove toward the old neighborhood, Alina's hands tightened around the seatbelt. Every street looked familiar, yet stained with memories she wanted to bury. When they finally stopped outside the house, her breath hitched. The gate was still crooked. The garden still overgrown. And the door she once escaped through in the middle of the night, still felt like it held the echo of every fear she ever lived. "You're not alone," Daniel reminded her. She nodded, but the moment she stepped out, her knees weakened. Trauma has a way of resurfacing like deep waves, hitting harder when you least expect it. Together, they walked toward the door. A voice she never wanted to hear again. Just as Alina reached for the handle, the door swung open from the inside. Her ex stood there. The man she had escaped. A cold smirk stretched across his face the moment he saw her. Well, look who came crawling back," he sneered. Alina froze. Daniel immediately stepped forward. "She didn't come back to you. She came for her things. That's it." Her ex stepped closer, anger rising. "I don't remember asking you anything." Alina's breath shook. She could feel old fear crawling beneath her skin. But she forced herself to stay. "I just want my documents," she said quietly. "I want nothing else." Her ex laughed bitterly. "You think you can walk out of here like nothing happened? You ruined my life." Daniel clenched his jaw, but Alina touched his arm gently, stopping him before he said anything. She met her ex's eyes, something she never had the courage to do before. "I didn't ruin your life," she said softly. "You ruined ours. Choosing strength over fear." Her words shocked even her. They echoed in her ears like thunder. For the first time, she wasn't trembling. For the first time, she wasn't running. For the first time, she wasn't letting him control the moment. Her ex stepped back, momentarily stunned. He muttered something under his breath but turned away, letting her inside. Alina entered slowly. Everything inside looked exactly the same, the cracked vase, the torn curtains, the dent on the wall where he once slammed a fist. But she no longer felt small. She picked up her documents, a few photos of her parents, her old diary, and the small locket her mother gave her. With each item she placed into her bag, she felt a piece of her old life returning, not the painful parts, but the pieces she wanted to grow from. When she walked out of the house, the sunlight felt different. Warmer. Freer. Daniel opened the car door for her. "You were incredible in there." She shook her head. "No. I was terrified." "But you still walked in," he said. "That's what courage really is. A new beginning, not just an escape." On the drive back, Alina stared out the window, watching the world pass by. Something settled inside her, a quiet acceptance, a decision she didn't realize she had made. "Daniel," she said softly. "Yeah. I want to live differently now. Not afraid. Not hiding. I want to build something, even if it's small." Daniel smiled. "And you will. I know you will." She looked at him then, really looked at him. The man who opened his door without hesitation. The man who stood beside her when she felt weakest. The man who believed in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. She knew she owed her healing to herself. But she also knew she didn't heal alone. The call that changed everything. That evening, as Alina unpacked the box in her new apartment, her phone rang. She didn't recognize the number, but she answered. A calm woman's voice spoke. Hello, is this Alina? This is from the community center. We received your request for volunteer work. We'd love to meet with you. Alina's heart skipped. She had sent that request last week, unsure if she was ready. Unsure if she could help others when she was still learning to help herself. But hearing those words now felt like a door opening. A door she wanted to walk through. I'd love to come, she replied. When she hung up, she sat quietly on the floor, tears forming, not from sadness, but from relief. From hope. Her life was no longer defined by escape. It was defined by what she would build next. The message of Chapter 2. Healing does not erase the past. Healing helps you carry it differently. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is return to the place that broke you, not to stay, not to relive the pain, but to reclaim the pieces of yourself you left behind. Alina did exactly that. With courage. With fear. With a friend who stood beside her when she needed strength the most. Her story was no longer about survival. It was about beginning again.